So today, we're going to dive into a single idea that was so powerful, it completely redrew the map of Europe. We're talking about nationalism. We're going to uncover how this simple concept of a nation went from this, revolutionary dream to the political reality that pretty much shapes our entire world.
So here's the big question we're tackling. How did we get from a Europe of sprawling multi-ethnic empires ruled by kings and queens to the Europe we know today, a map of distinct nation-states? How did that happen? Well, let's find out.
Okay, let's rewind the clock all the way back to 1789. Before this moment, Europe was basically this patchwork of kingdoms. Your loyalty wasn't to France or a nation. No, it was to a king, to a dynasty like the Bourbons. But right then, in Paris, something was happening that would change everything. The first real spark of nationalism was about to be lit. The French Revolution unleashed these two, explosive ideas: la patrie, the fatherland, and le citoyen, the citizen. And just like that, power wasn't in the hands of one king anymore. It belonged to the people themselves, a whole community of citizens with equal rights. I mean, this was absolutely radical, a total departure from everything that had come before. And then this guy shows up, Napoleon Bonaparte. As his armies just marched across Europe, he's tearing down old dynasties, setting up new governments. And here's the crazy part. As he's conquering, he's also spreading the very ideas that created him. Ideas of liberty, modern laws, and most importantly, this idea of a national identity. It was like a wildfire. But of course, Napoleon's empire was not going to last forever. In 1815, at the legendary Battle of Waterloo, he's finally defeated. And who beat him? It wasn't just one country. It was a coalition, a team-up of all the old monarchies: Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria. The old way of doing things, it struck back. And that victory set the stage for this huge ideological battle for the very soul of Europe. Okay, so with Napoleon out of the picture, the victorious old powers all get together for a meeting at the Congress of Vienna in 1815. And their goal, led by this super influential and very conservative Austrian Duke Metternich, was basically to turn back the clock. They wanted to erase everything the French Revolution stood for and put the genie of nationalism right back in the bottle. And this is where we get this incredible quote from Metternich himself. He was the architect of this whole conservative pushback. Now, it sounds dramatic, right? But he was genuinely afraid of something, and he understood a crucial truth about the new world he was living in. So what did he mean by that? Well, Metternich saw that the ideas coming out of France, liberty, equality, nationalism, they were like a virus. Once they were out there, you just couldn't contain them. He absolutely knew that if a revolution sparked in Paris, it would inevitably inspire other uprisings all across the continent. And guess what? He was totally right. In July 1830, France sneezed again. Another nationalist revolution kicks off, and just like Metternich feared, the rest of Europe caught a cold. That spark in Paris directly led to an uprising in Brussels, which ended with Belgium breaking away from the Netherlands to become its own nation. The idea was spreading, and it was becoming unstoppable. But what was really fueling this fire? I mean, it wasn't just about battles and treaties, right? To really get it, we need to hit pause on the timeline for a second and look at the powerful new ways of thinking that were just capturing the hearts and minds of everybody. First up, you've got liberalism. Now, you got to understand, for the new, educated middle class, this was their idea. They wanted governments that guaranteed individual freedom, equality for everybody, and for them, the nation was the perfect way to get it. A unified state, based on a constitution, could protect their rights way better than some sprawling empire ruled by a king miles and miles away. And at the very same time, you have Romanticism, which kind of gave nationalism its soul. It was this big cultural movement that celebrated folk songs, shared language, a common history. Romantics believed a nation wasn't just a place. It had a spirit. And this wasn't just talk. It had real consequences. I mean, look at the English poet Lord Byron. He didn't just write poems about freedom. He actually went to Greece to fight and die for their independence. It became this huge symbol for all of Europe. All right, so you've got the revolutionary sparks, you've got the ideological fuel. What happens next? Well, the second half of the 19th century is when these abstract ideas finally get hammered into concrete political reality. The modern nations of Italy and Germany were about to be born. And what's so fascinating here is how this timeline just lays out this long, messy journey. You see an early union way back in 1707 in Great Britain. Then a huge gap until 1815, where, as we saw, the old powers tried to slam on the brakes. But then just look at what happens next. It's a cascade. Italy unites between 1859 and 1870, and right on its heels, Germany does the same. The idea had become a totally unstoppable force. Now, the story of Italian unification is just this passionate, chaotic process. You had the heart, these were the thinkers like Giuseppe Mazzini dreaming of one Italian republic. You had the sword, charismatic generals like Giuseppe Garibaldi leading his volunteer army. And then you had the brains, the clever politicians making deals and starting wars. It was this mix of popular passion and cold, hard strategy that finally forged all those little Italian states into one single nation. But think about it. How do you get millions of people to feel like they belong to something so big and, well, abstract as a nation? One of the most powerful ways was to give it a human face. Artists started creating these female figures, these allegories to personify their countries, turning a political idea into a motherland you'd be willing to fight for. And these are two perfect examples. In France, she was Marianne, a symbol of the people, of liberty, of reason. In the German lands, she was Germania, usually shown as this powerful, armored figure, representing unity and strength. These weren't just pretty pictures or statues. They were powerful symbols that made the idea of a nation feel real and personal, like a family. And speaking of Germany, its path to becoming a nation was way different. It was less about popular uprisings and more about hardcore politics and military power, forged, as its leader Otto von Bismarck famously said, by blood and iron. But what's interesting is that the original dream of a united Germany came from liberal nationalists, the ones who marched under the black, red, and gold flag that symbolized their hope for a united, democratic country. So from this one radical idea born in 1789 France, nationalism grew into a force that could bring down empires and build brand new countries. It's an idea that can unite people in liberation, but, as the next century would show, it could also tear them apart in the most brutal ways imaginable. The story of nationalism is really a double-edged sword, and its legacy is something we're all still dealing with today. So the real question isn't just how the map was redrawn, but how we continue to live with the powerful and often dangerous lines that it created.